DEIA staff for this committee, and we have awesome committee members and awesome chair we have. Before we get started, we want to just shoot one poll question. I'm going to launch that, and after that, it's going to be Samantha, the committee chair, who will take over from me. Thank you. All right, I am going to give a few more seconds and let's close the poll. All right, we have 17. Let's see. More answers. All right, here you go. 3, 2, 1, and go. All right, here is the first question and its result. Have you attended any trainings or webinars on DEIA? 56% said 1 through 3, and 5 out of 18 has not attended any of those, and 4 or more, 17. All right, I will stop here.
Good morning or afternoon, everyone. I don't even know what day it is. Thanks for being here. I'm Samantha Winkle. I am on the USCC board, and I'm also the chair for this committee. Thank you all for being here. As Terry and I, we're fumbling our way through this, but this is our 3rd annual town hall for DEIA, which is really amazing. And I want to welcome everyone. Housekeeping, I don't think that we actually have to do anything with housekeeping because everyone's muted and or cameras off and all that stuff. If you need anything, reach out in the chat. Gowrie can help. Linda can help. She's here as well. I probably can't help, but I can try. So yeah, let's get going.
Really quick, Sam,
yes.
Just for participants, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A instead of the chat so that we can see that very easily.
Zinzi
okay,
is
go ahead, Sam.
I am. Thank you, Zinzi. This town hall is kind of unique and really exciting because we have 2 speakers. We have Tracy Bills and Tiffany Hong, and Zinzi will give you their amazing backgrounds and the wonderful humans that they are. And I will provide some brief committee updates, and then we'll let our subcommittee chairs go over those additional things. So I will read the USCC statement, which is we went over and we created this as a board at one of our strategic planning meetings. The USCC is committed to growing diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, DEIA, within the organization and throughout the compost industry by institutionalizing DEIA in our operations and initiatives. So the goal of the USCC is to be an association leader in DEIA. And again, so one of the things that we're hoping to do with our goals for DEIA is aiming to have a greater reach to the audience to institutionalize DEIA through USCC, our membership, operations, programs, chapters, annual conference. And we are aiming to include all diverters of organics from landfills with visibility, acknowledgement, and impact. And we aim to deepen the connection and collaboration and equitable participation through all humans. And Zinzi, I'm going to kick this one over to you because I know that you and Terry are both the masterminds behind the metrics and training committee. And I guess the accomplishments, I guess that's the next slide. Never mind. I'm just going to stop. So last year for Compost 2023, we collaborated with ILSR and did some scholarships. We facilitated a chapter workshop at Compost 2023, and then the board goal again is to be the association leader in DEIA. And that's all from me. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. Welcome everyone. Glad you could join us today. I'm Zincy. I work for Zero Waste Sonoma, but I'm also part of the DEIA committee. And today we have two speakers. So I'm going to start with Tiffany. Tiffany is the co-founder of Circle Up Education, an Oakland, California-based social enterprise dedicated to providing diversity, equity, and conflict resolution training, coaching, and consulting services to cities, schools, businesses, and organizations across the California Bay Area and beyond. Tiffany founded Circle Up Education in 2014 and has since then become a renowned DEIA trainer and consultant. She is a powerful emblem for female social entrepreneurship and courageous and authentic leadership. Since founding Circle Up Education, Tiffany has worked to develop Circle Up Education's proven track record for delivering impactful training services to over 40 government agencies and 25 cities, 7 law enforcement agencies, 6 schools and academic institutions, and 30 nonprofits and private institutions to remove barriers to increase team cohesion, retain diverse talent, and create sustainable diversity and equity programs for youth and adults. As a first-generation Vietnamese American and UC Berkeley graduate in peace and conflict studies with an emphasis in conflict resolution, Tiffany also uses her interdisciplinary background to help leaders come together to identify and address the root causes of conflicts and inequity through critical self-reflection and skill building. And Tracy Bills has been in the environmental and resource management, material management field for over 25 years. Her expertise spans across many different services, including commercial recycling technical assistance, organics programs, environmental purchasing, large venue and event zero waste programs, research and sustainability planning, garbage hauler franchise compliance and review and writing, climate inventory compilation research and feasibility studies to help clients with comprehensive waste prevention and zero waste programs. She currently works for HDR. However, she has also worked for a garbage company, nonprofit, county government, and has been a consultant for over 17 years. Tracy has been the contracted executive director for the past 4 years, and she additionally was a CRRA board member for 9 years and an advisor for 2. Her role as an executive director is to lead the board and organization, increasing educational activities, developing and maintaining the annual budget, managing the conference, and is recently working with a committee and consultant on diversity, equity, inclusion efforts. So welcome. I'm gonna go ahead and advance and go ahead and take the presentation away.
Awesome. Thanks, Zincy, for having Tiffany and I. We're super excited to share CRA's journey in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I guess we'll just get started. I wanted to explain who CRA is first, and then we'll dive into the nuts and bolts of the DEI efforts. So for those of you that don't know who the California Resource Recovery Association is, we are one of the oldest and largest statewide recycling associations. And great enough, we're actually celebrating our 50th year next year. So that's pretty awesome that we've been around for that long. We are a nonprofit who focuses on sustainability, resource conservation, and zero waste efforts. Just for a note, we are not a lobbying organization, although we do have a lot of partners that we sign on with their letters, but we rather focus on educational opportunities for our members. Go ahead and change the slide. So I wanted to highlight that we have 9 board members from 3 different districts in California, and they all have a 3-year term. One of the things that we've struggled with in the past is diversity on our board. Our board elections are based on those that nominate themselves and then who in that district votes for those individuals. So we don't really have a lot of control over it. However, I will say, if you look at our board, we do have good diversification between people of color, young professionals, and women. So I'd like to think that the work that we're doing is helping with this, but honestly, I'm not exactly sure. I'm just grateful that we have an amazing board that does come from diverse backgrounds. Go ahead and change the slide. We also have 10 advisors, which is a lot, but this last year the board couldn't decide because they're all really amazing. So I just wanted to note that we also have more people that help participate with CRA and the direction of our initiatives. Go ahead and change the slide. So I think first I wanted to provide some context and history on our DEI journey. The CRA board had a discussion, oh gosh, probably 10 years ago regarding diversity on the board. We wanted to be more inclusive, and we wanted to figure out how to create opportunity with adding additional members to the organization and how to be able to do that. Although we discussed it, we really didn't take action until summer of 2020 with the Black Lives Matter movement and George Floyd. Our president at the time, she wanted to issue a statement in support. However, I actually wasn't sure how best to do so. So I contacted a DEI expert and asked some questions. And what we ended up deciding was, given that we've never done this work before, it just felt a statement was probably inappropriate. And the reason behind that was she gave me an example of a large box company who issued a statement and was severely patronized for it because they were stating it that they were in support of it, but they had no policies or anything in place to support it. So we really wanted, our intentions with the statement were good, but we really wanted to walk the talk. And it was at that time we realized we need to stop talking about this. We need to start taking action. So what we did for our DEI we held a DEI training in the fall of 2020. Then we wrote an RFP and hired a DEI expert in spring of 21. We were able to complete a number of items with our first DEI expert, and that was ranged from spring of 2021 through summer of 2022. Then we decided to go out for another RFP to continue our work, and we hired Circle Up in spring of 2023. And Tiffany, she's managed, let's see, we had a 3-hour DEI training for the board, and then we held multiple meetings with our DEI committee, which I'll talk about a little bit later, to complete an action plan, which we did in September. So I would say that our biggest priority for this work was to increase diversification in membership, to be more inclusive in pretty much everything that we do. And really that's twofold. One is to focus on the CRA and strategically increasing membership where it matters. And I mean, being very strategic in how we go about this in a more inclusive way. And the other is to help our members with their own DEI journeys and how we might be able to help them through education. So not just the organization as a whole, but also to see how we can help our members with their efforts. The one thing that I would say is having Circle Up as a partner has been really amazing. Tiffany is incredible. She's made things so much easier for us and the process for what it's worth. And Tiffany, I just wanted to see if you had anything else that you wanted to add with regards to where we are with this effort before we go on to the next slide.
Yeah, I think I just really appreciated you, Tracy, and your efforts of wanting to find somebody to support you all, and also appreciated that you had a pretty clear goal in mind. Like you knew maybe not, you didn't know exactly what it looked like, but you knew you wanted action, you wanted a plan, and you wanted membership diversification and also inclusivity. So that made my job really easy, to be honest with you, because and I think it also helps that there are so many members of the board who were supportive of the work, who wanted to be a part of the committee, and there were volunteers from the association to be a part of it also. So that made it really easy to kind of like create the time and the effort and to be able to utilize everybody's experience to be able to develop the action plan, which I'm sure you'll share a little bit more about in our process. But yeah, I think asking for help and support is always the first step. So.
Awesome, thanks. Go ahead and switch to the next slide. So kind of wanted to highlight a few of the things that we have completed. Through the first round with the first DEI expert that we were working with, we completed the CRA community agreements, working framework and definitions. And we did a strategic planning survey that was really more for the leadership. So our board advisors and our technical council committees. We had them take a survey to get a better gauge of where we were. Next steps were we were supposed to actually do that with the entire membership, but that hasn't happened yet. And then after hiring Tiffany in the spring, we finished our DEI mission, vision, and then our draft action plan. What I love about the action plan is I feel it's simple in that we can see what we need to do. And she had us breaking out into different groups to be able to really fine tune it. And it was not just, there was a few board members on there, but it was also CRA members that were contributing. And so it was great to be able to have that dialogue and be more engaged and have the conversation, because CRA boards members, they knew a little bit more than the members did, but at the same time, the members were really in tune what they felt was missing. So it was this amazing collaboration. There were, I think, 9 or 10 of us on the committee, and it was pretty fantastic. One thing I would mention is that we did finish our action plan in September, and we basically prioritized everything of what needed to happen first, second, or third, but we haven't put dates to them. So that's really the next step for us, is to put dates to hold us accountable, to make sure that we keep moving things forward. But we're excited. The board just reviewed those actions last month at the board meeting, and so we're looking forward to getting started. Go ahead and switch slides. So some lessons learned. I feel like there were a lot of them for me. And especially over the last couple of years, one of the most important pieces I would mention is to choose members for your DEI committee that will contribute and that you can actually trust. And it sounds like you guys have done some really incredible work at the U.S. Compost Council, and I loved hearing what you guys were doing in the very beginning. And I'm sure you guys can attest to this. Some of the conversation can be intense, and knowing that you trust what others are saying and that they are not judgmental of you or what you're saying is pretty huge. And so I feel like we have been very, very lucky about having so many amazing committee members who are committed to helping CRA design a successful DEI program. Another lesson is to hire a consultant that you feel comfortable with and will be a true partner. And I will tell you, this is really huge. There was a reason why we went through a few DEI experts until we found Tiffany, and we love Tiffany. We love Circle Up, and it's because she's been so responsive, so kind, very educated in this, and honestly, Tiffany, you've just been keeping us moving forward, which feels so good. And it also, you make it, I know it's a very complex issue or process that we're going through, and you make it very simple. So I really appreciate it about you. And the last thing I would say with lessons learned is for me to know, and this was a big thing that over the last couple of years has been pretty integral with my position as executive director, is knowing that the work is a continual process, that even though we have our action plan, we'll continue working on that, evaluating, updating, making changes as necessary, but it is a permanent item in our budget. And this is the commitment the board has decided, because it's too important for us not to do this. And because it's in our budget and because it's keeping us focused, and all of that I've learned, it's been really helpful for how I view the work that we're doing as an everyday sort of thing. As an example, we're redoing our bylaws and internal policy whenever we're developing conference content or membership scholarships. Everything that we're looking at now, I'm looking at through a DEI lens. And what's really great is I'm able to pull on Tiffany's expertise to help make sure that we're keeping that in mind as we move forward. Tiffany, I wanted to give you an opportunity to see if there was anything else that you thought would be good for lessons learned before we move to the next slide.
No, I think these are really great lessons learned. I think something that we also did together, Tracy, is in not only choosing the people on the committee, we also gave them some time to also get to know each other and talk a little bit about some of their needs and being a part of the committee, because I think people bring so much lived experiences, and also being an association, everybody has their own kind of like lens or angle that they bring of what they've done or seen in their own organization. So I think what also helped us to be so successful is we carved out maybe the first meeting and a half to also give people an opportunity to share kind of why this work was personally important to them, so that we can set up the work where people see each other as kind of colleagues and assuming best intention, and also seeing that we're all here for the right reason. So I think that also made our work go through really smoothly.
Awesome. Go ahead, Cincy.
Okay, and just real quick, you have 4 minutes left.
Awesome. Go ahead and move the last slide.
I think the last slide is for me. But I think things to think about in the process that Circle Up supported CRA with was some things to think about if you're considering DEIA for your organization is first starting with identifying your why. Every organization has a different why, whether it's for diversifying staff or creating opportunities that are equitable, or thinking about how the work that you all do impact the people in the communities that you serve. Your why will give you your foundation and the leverage to do everything that you want to do moving forward, whether that's training or spending resources or thinking about reviewing policies. I think establishing your why is the most critical. And then with CRA, for identifying and developing an action plan, there's so many different directions of where this can go. And so with CRA, we decided to start with identifying their areas of influence. Being an association and not being like an organization that employs like hundreds of people or even thousands of people, we were like, how do we affect people in these different ways? So we identified what I called like the buckets of areas of influence, which included the board and how the board operates. We also included staff or internal operations. We also included the annual conference that they put on, and also technical councils. So those are all the different ways that DEIA can be identified, influenced, addressed, and also expanded upon. So once we were able to, as a group, identify those different areas, we then reflected on different challenges around diversity, equity, and inclusion and access that impacted those areas. So thinking about an annual conference and who that was accessible to or inaccessible to, and thinking about board recruitment, right? Like who joins the board typically and who are the people whose voices are missing that maybe they don't always think about applying to be a part of or self-nominating to be a part of the board. So we identified challenges. We then considered what are the root causes to these things. Sometimes it's a lack of communication. Sometimes it's kind of biases that are kind of infused within the industry. Sometimes there's just a lack of understanding around how to apply to be a board member, for example, or what the process is. So once we identified those root causes, it became very easy to identify different solutions and initiatives that could encompass action that CRA board and staff can actually take, and then also measure upon improvements moving forward. So those are just kind of like a broad framework if it's something that you're considering, but every journey for every organization may look very different. Yeah, but I know we only had 4 minutes left, and I also see a question in the chat that I'm sure Tracy may be able to help answer later.
So just real quick, our next steps to finish the action plan with due dates and start implementing some of the items. We are going to be going through a strategic planning process over the next couple of months. And as part of that, I've asked Tiffany to talk with the person who's facilitating the process so we can make sure, again, that we're really moving forward with a DA lens on all the different changes that we're making to the organization. We're going to be doing a bylaw and internal policy review, and Tiffany is going to review that before we send it off to our attorneys. And then again, beginning working on the action plan. So CRA is super grateful for Tiffany's help and having such a partner in her. And we finally feel like we have momentum, which is an incredible feeling. So thanks, Tiffany, for Circle Up being, a great partner in all of this. And yeah, happy to take any questions. It's definitely a journey. And as Tiffany said, it's very specific to your organization and the people that are helping put all the different components together to keep DEI moving forward. So
Thank you, Tracy.
do you want me to read the first question there and answer that?
Yes, please.
Okay, it says, as a nonprofit that is already well along on this journey, what recommendations do you have for fellow nonprofits in terms of finding, procuring funding for DEI efforts, especially something like hiring DEI expert? We are actually very lucky because we have our annual conference that really funds most of our budget. And so and I will say, that it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. We didn't necessarily have the funding slotted for DEI, but we decided we needed to do it. And so honestly, as an executive director, I went out to trying to find more sponsorship funding to be able to help support it. So I think any way that you can get creative money to be able to do this. But now that it's in the budget, it's just a given, and we just continue to include it every year. The first year we actually had 20,000 in the budget to get us jump started. We had a very great year for the conference, so we were able to do that. But right now our budget is about 10,000 each year to keep things moving forward. Looks like another question. What is an example of a way you would amend your bylaws to address these initiatives? Well, so since I've just started this process, I'm going to hand that over to Tiffany.
I think it's a little bit too early for me to be able to answer since we still have yet to kind of review the bylaws. But I mean, I think it depends. I think in looking at the bylaws, we have to consider kind of like, what are the intentions of these bylaws? How is it actually either expanding or extending your mission around DEI, or how is it inhibiting your mission around DEI? And I think that will be able to give you more insight around how you might be able to amend the bylaws. So that's always something that I'm thinking of.
And one of the things that I would love to do, and I don't know if it's necessarily appropriate there, it seems appropriate to me, is to put in a statement or our mission and vision for DEI into the bylaws, so that way it doesn't get lost along the way. And I don't know if the best space for that is bylaws or internal policy, but I do think that we need to make sure that it's there as well as on our website, and we don't forget it, because as you know, boards turn over. And so do executive directors for that matter. But all the work that we've been doing, we don't want to lose. We don't want to lose that. So making sure that it's there somewhere.
I think that's a smart idea, Tracy, to operationalize DEI and make sure it creates a lasting impact. And then you also have one more question in the chat from Linda, which is, do you ever get pushback at all from anyone?
You know, what's interesting is a couple years ago when we were having our virtual conference, we did have a DEI speaker as one of our keynotes, and there was a member who was very much pushing back on it. And then I was afraid I was going to have an issue because all the other members were like, "You're wrong," and I put him back on him. It was a situation I'd never been in before, and I would say almost all of our members are very supportive of it. But the big thing is our board. Our board has been very passionate about this for a very long time, and that's why they're willing to cut some budget over here to make sure DEI has budget, because they find it one of the most important things. I think, especially in the industry we're in, with the material recovery facilities and lower income, and then where we're building facilities. I love that part that you guys had, and I don't know if it was your statement or your mission vision regarding facilities, but all of that's everyday work for us, and making sure that we're reaching out. Ideal and behavior change. Like, I have a bunch of different examples that we talked about in our meetings of what that looks like and how we make sure we integrate that into thinking through how it impacts everybody else. Anyhow, so I haven't had any pushback from the board. They've been driving this from day one, which makes my job a lot easier. And the one member that I mentioned too, I had a side conversation with them about it. But I mean, that was one person out of like a couple hundred people. So I think that it's just going to, at some point, and this is my goal, is it's just mainstream. It's just what we do. It's part of our culture. As humans, but also as an organization. So that's my goal, to keep it alive and at the forefront, and having DEI conversations throughout the year in webinars or at our conference, and even thinking through how we're selecting our speakers and who, for the conference as well. So yeah, I think there's always pushback, but I feel very fortunate that we haven't had too much.
Thank you so much, Tracy and Tiffany, for being our speakers today. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions, and we have to move on. So if you two want to stay on, please feel free. But we're going to be moving on now to our committee updates. So thanks
Awesome.
again.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it. And feel free to reach out if you have any other questions.
Yes, thank you, everybody, and happy birthday, Samantha.
All right.
Thank you.
So we are going to move on now to committee updates, as I mentioned, and Linda, you are first.
Okay, great. Thank you. So happy to be here representing the metrics committee. We had a wonderful chair, and we lost her. She left our industry. So we are still looking for one of our members to be a chair, but we are moving forward on things that we're doing. And the major project that we're working on, when we started this journey a couple of years ago, we talked about collecting data on what our industry looks like, what, who is in our industry, where are they coming from, what are our demographics. And we added demographics when people come to webinars, when people register for the conference, or anything that people sign up for. But that doesn't collect data on people who have been in the Composting Council for a long time. So we were struggling with how to do this in also a respectful way, since we weren't experts in collecting data, number one, and that many of our member organizations are small businesses who may not have any type of compliance requirement to collect this data. So what we did is started researching different ways and different possibilities for collecting data. Last year at our conference, we actually increased our amount of data in our database significantly so that we do have data for, I would guess, about a third of the people in our database, because we asked everyone to fill out a survey right there at the conference in our app, which was really wonderful, gave us a lot of data. But we still, those core members who were our longtime members, we would push them to go and fill out their profiles and say what their demographics were. And these were basically around race, ethnicity, age, and gender. Those are the primary things that we were collecting at this moment. So a year ago, I came across a company and a process that is called a maturity model. And what this is companies that are consultants in the DEIA space are actually specialized in collecting this data, number one, and many of them are in a position to provide data back to the companies they collect the data from. And this seemed like a very exciting thing, because what this data does is it brings together all the data that the people in that survey, so it would be our industry, have submitted, and then puts them into categories to see how you're doing in comparison with others in your industry. So with the leadership of Samantha and a couple of other board members, this was a pretty big lift for us. It's a pretty, we're doing the study this year, and there's some follow-up money for it. You can see it's $10,000. So that's a big project for you, for USCC, if it's not core on composting. But our board felt this was so important that we are now, the metrics committee has been evaluating the questions that we're going to ask. And this survey will be going out probably sometime between November, December, that time frame. We wanted to put it out at a time when people will want to answer it, because the whole incentive for answering it, we don't have to give you Starbucks cards. Instead, you get to find out for your company how your journey, how far you are along your DEI journey with others in the industry. So we're really excited about that. It will be an anonymized survey, so the only people who will know how your survey turned out are the people that took it. One person from the company fills out the survey on behalf of the company, and we'll be doing a lot of promotion to try to get people to take this survey. And we are actively trying to offset the funding that the board has given to the survey. So if anyone wants to sponsor this survey and have your name on the survey when it goes out to all of our members, just go to that link there or contact me and I'm happy to work with you. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions of anything I may have left out in that. And so the next project that that I have been working on personally is to try to continue the scholarships that were mentioned from last year. Last year, the 11th Hour Foundation, we were very grateful that they provided funding to ILSR and they extended funding to us as well, so that we were able to bring 7 people to the conference who qualified in categories of DEIA that we had preset alongside the ILSR in those surveys. This year, that organization was not able to fund those. So what we are doing is fundraising for these scholarships. And we figured last year we covered the tuition for people. And what we found out, we had 12 people that applied, but 5 of them still could not afford the travel and the lodging to come to the conference. And that was a big learning for us, is that you can't just waive tuition and think that's going to do the trick when it comes to, people from these audiences. There is a bigger lift that we have to do. So this year I'm trying to raise an average of $1,000 per scholarship, 10 scholarships. So if anyone has an interest in those as well, you also can donate any amount you like when you sign up for the conference. We do have a donation link. So that is what that's all about. Just let me know if you have any questions about that. If we get enough funding, we will go ahead and put those out. So far, we only have enough funding for 1 scholarship. And I will thank the North Carolina Composting Council for helping with that. And Better Earth is also helping with our DEIA survey as well. And that's what I have.
All right, I think this is me. Hello, everyone. I can see we're kind of running into a thick pattern of the next speakers, so I won't take too much time. My name's Amy Bartucci. I want to thank the speakers today. This topic is very important. Obviously, 3 years of a town hall and sticking around here, I've been able to put a lot of the intention behind what I care about where I live in the state of Illinois. I am the administrative coordinator for the Illinois Food Scrap and Composting Coalition. And I wanted to say hi to some of the folks from Illinois on the call. I can see you and your name, so thank you for participating and learning alongside this group. Thank you to everybody who's working on all of these committee efforts. And some of the things that ended up being a smaller portion of the DEIA committee have been blossoming and in new ways. So this year, the conference is going to be able to have an inaugural pilot area called the Innovation Corner, Business Corner. And basically the small business innovation is the theme of that, that spot. I'm working with a couple of folks in our DEIA space that have joined our calls and otherwise to be able to provide a little bit of engagement for people to learn from each other in these small innovative companies. So I'd like to give a shout out to my colleagues who aren't here, but David Velez from Tawa Compost, who's been in the California area. And then We Radiate has had Sashti. I'm sorry, I don't remember Sashti's pronunciation of his last name, but he's in India. So I'm here representing our small subcommittee. The application will go out, and basically the goal is to have 6 innovative small businesses be able to join within the Compost Conference in Florida in February. And there will be 6 that are selected based on some DEIA metrics that will be providing each other in a small committee that we meet every other Friday to be able to come up with this plan. So we are launching this tomorrow, and we will have a quick turnaround to be able to provide information to the selected recipients by within enough time to join us at the conference. So just wanted to thank everybody. I think that's pretty much the basic of the Innovation Corner. And I will describe it as basically a catalyst for inspiration, collaboration, and networking, fostering an environment where attendees can exchange ideas, forge partnerships, develop collaboration, and discuss new opportunities. So my way, our way, this whole town hall, the small, the big, we're bringing it all together at the conference and in this small subcommittee for uplifting the small innovators. So thanks so much. If you have any questions, just let us know. I can answer some questions in the chat, or we can see you over the next few weeks as we launch this pilot corner for the conference. Thank you.
Amy, that's amazing. Thank you so much. That's going to connect all the dots, I think, for all of us. So it's great to be part of the 3rd annual town hall. So much has happened since our last town hall. I'm Terry Sorg-McManaman, and I'm the Director of USCC Professional Development and the Staff Liaison with the DEIA Training Subcommittee. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. So in the new year, we'll be launching our first DEIA training module. And as they say, it for sure has taken a village. This effort is being led by the training subcommittee of the full DEIA committee. And we're all very excited to be this close to offering a vital tool for training. So how did we get here, and why did we choose Oregon State University to help us with our first DEIA learning module? When the USCC board approved a budget for continuing DEIA training, the training subcommittee outlined what they really wanted to have in the forefront: the ability to offer members an accessible introductory training in basic key terms, practices related to DEIA that would provide a shared vocabulary, and a knowledge base for the USCC members from a wide range of backgrounds and varied prior exposure to DEIA content. Also, we thought it very important the ability to consider additional opportunities to provide members with a more comprehensive DEIA educational program beyond a one-time introductory training module, which would be more effectively meet the specific industry needs and DEI-related challenges of USCC members. All of this at no cost to members or whoever goes onto the site to take this educational course. So during our search and discovery work, we were introduced to many different platforms, each with their own personality and ease of use. In March of this year, we moved forward with an off-the-shelf yet slightly customizable intro to DEIA through Oregon State University Center for Advancing Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Business. They were uniquely qualified to support us by offering training that was informed by industry knowledge, research-backed best practices in DEIA, a hugely rich experience with online learning, and access to top subject matter experts from diverse backgrounds. We then moved into forming our learning structure. OSU knows from research that the most effective adult learning experiences are sequential, sustained, and directly applicable to practice in daily life. And as such, they recommended we start with one in a particular potential series of online self-paced modules with topics developed in collaboration with the DEIA work group. So USCC DEIA learning module. The first learning module is an introduction to diversity topics in the United States composting industry. Our learning objectives: participants will be able to describe the ethical and business case for promoting DEI in business, to define DEI concepts, including diversity, equity, inclusion, privilege, oppression, and bias, and to evaluate how cultural factors and a person's background may influence preferences and behaviors in business contexts. So participants will apply key terms and concepts to a case study of relevance to the U.S. Composting Council and to our industry. Each area has a review with questions. Participants then apply some of the key terms and contexts they learned through the intro module through a case study. Greenland Soils, Inc. is a relatable yet fictitious industry company finding challenges in a changing composting world filled with diversity, who is about to start a new DEIA initiative. Next slide, please. And this is the first peek of our USCC DEIA training landing page. We think it's simple yet inviting to begin your DEIA journey. Underneath this header is, next slide, Cindy, the training course summary of why this work is important to all of us. So we see some familiar faces here. We're trying to make this relatable, obviously, to our industry. The participant then clicks on Launch Training and sees a welcome and what the training will cover, and let the participant know it will take about 30 to 40 minutes of time, and that there will be pauses to review and see what they've learned so far. At the end, we included a survey to ask participants basic questions about themselves, things like pronouns applied, where they're from, how many DEIA trainings they've previously taken part in, additional topics of interest for future trainings, and comments about this particular training experience. The data is collected through Qualtrics survey in collaboration with Oregon State, so we'll be able to track our progress with this first intro learning module 1. And then finally, we have an additional resources and references page, which is rich list of links and PDFs to help the learner continue to work on their own. Renee Wallace, our chair of the training subcommittee, will touch more on that as we continue. Renee?
Hi, and good day, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. I have the privilege of serving on our training subcommittee. And as you heard already from our amazing guest speakers, if you would go to the next slide, please. What we've already heard is that it takes a strategy and approach to move this work forward. Both Tracy and Tiffany have given us some insight to what it takes to move it forward. So we are beginning to work on our implementation plan and how we can move this forward. One of the things that we discussed from the very, very beginning was we wanted to make sure that we could identify and connect with every way that people enter into engagement with the USCC. So whether you come in through a conference or one of our professional development opportunities, you wind up in one of our webinars, our operator training, however you show up, we want to make sure that we are using our DEIA lens in all of those entry points so we don't miss anyone. One of the first things we're asking groups to do is to take a look at the statement and explore how it aligns with the work that they do. What does it mean? How do you interpret that for your particular entry point where people are coming in and engaging with you? We also are sharing with folks our aim as we're introducing this training program is we're really integrating it into our professional development offerings. And we'll want to know as we're talking with folks, how ready are we to actually enter into this training? What is your state of readiness? And what support needs might you have? We're a small and mighty team, but we know it's going to take some effort to really support this well. And so we're gathering some information as we introduce this to folks to get a sense of what our infrastructure really needs to be. We have a checklist that we're using, and you'll get a chance to practice with this yourself, but we're also going to use it internally to look at opportunities to begin to implement DEIA in our work internal to USCC. We're committed to internal to USCC as well as the world. So you'll get a chance to peek at that. And as we're looking at the entry points within USCC, we're inviting folks to assign someone, as a contact person in their area and to connect to our subcommittee and our broader committee at large so that they become a part of the development of institutionalizing it and part of the DNA of USCC. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over back to Zinzi, and she's going to give you a sneak peek at this training checklist, which is a way that you can even begin to engage in DEI work even today. Zinzi.
Thank you, Renee. Yes, so as mentioned, we have a DEIA checklist that is still in development, but we definitely want to hear some feedback if any of you have thoughts about what we've developed so far. So it is a tool that we've, as Renee mentioned, we're trying to help identify opportunities to increase diversity, equity, inclusivity, and access in operations and recruitment of your company, your organization, information management, meetings and events. So just making sure that everything is accessible and equitable for people. Okay, and so this is a sneak peek of the checklist. So for example, we have in operations and recruitment, how you can increase DEIA is to aim for diverse leadership and membership in all areas. So maybe think about, as CRA has done, how you can rewrite your bylaws, your policy manuals, or your employee handbooks to make sure that things are equitable, accessible. You can create a DEIA team or a committee to help bring perspective and intention to all of your work. So this, I feel like it's really important to make sure you have, you pay attention to who's at the table, right? You want to make sure that there are diverse opinions out there and that people can share their experiences. And also, sharing cultural experiences is a good one too. If you have team members who maybe have worked in other types of organizations, or even if they have cultural experiences they want to share, maybe have like, I don't know, like a potluck or something. And then another way is to ensure that all processes to receive awards and bonuses recognition are equitable. This might take a little bit of work, and you know what this looks like could be different depending on your organization, but to make sure that everything is intentional when you develop plans and processes to make sure that people of all genders and races and abilities have compensation that is equitable. Another one is to identify, measure, address, and report on any unintended consequences of company policies and procedures that disparately impact certain groups more than others. So one example is, for women. Are there impacts that are related with women, say, going on maternity leave? Or, you know, are they unfairly being not considered for a raise because they're out on maternity leave? If anybody else on our committee has other examples, definitely feel free to speak up. And moving on, so another section that I mentioned is meetings and events. So think about how you can increase partnerships in underrepresented communities. For example, I work for a government agency, and so when we do public meetings about public projects, capital projects, we make sure that we are reaching out to the Hispanic community, because here in Sonoma County, we have a lot of big Hispanic community, and just making sure that materials, educational resources are provided in those languages. The third one is information management. So kind of related to what I mentioned with meetings and events, providing information in multiple languages. Think about your websites. Maybe you have, if you could have a widget installed onto your website that will allow for translation, or just your printed resources, providing those languages that are most commonly spoken in your region. And then incorporating less text-heavy signage is another one, mostly for ADA compliance and just making sure that's accessible to everybody. So here I'll pause. Our committee, anything to add? Okay. All right. So we have about 6 minutes left to our town hall today, but we just wanted to share this slide for people who are interested in staying connected to our committee and the work that USCC is doing in this space. Here are some links, and if you're interested in joining our committee to continue this work, please reach out to Sam or Gowrie. And here we are going to see if anybody has questions. So Lauren, you asked in the Q&A whether the Compost 2024 conference will be a zero waste event. Linda, it looks like you're typing, but do you want to answer that?
Sure, I can. I was actually typing it for Gowrie because she's having trouble getting the answer on there. Maybe Gowrie, you want to say the answer. You worked on it.
Yes, but yeah, so Lauren, yes, it is. We always host zero waste event every year. We try our best, and The numbers are reported post-conference by our executive director, Frank Franciosi, and this year we're going to have Old Town Compost as our zero waste partners, along with our event partner, Green Ferns. Yep, I think, yeah. And we have a lot of volunteers that support the zero waste, make it successful. Yep. Are there any efforts to mitigate carbon emissions from folks flying in?
Yeah, we haven't got
haven't.
that far yet. I know one time we used to have Climeco sponsoring us, and that's probably something we should look at again. Thanks for bringing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing. Maybe, you know, inventory, carbon footprint, and all those things. That's a good one. We should think about it. Yeah.
It looks like there's another question from Tim related to data collection. Have you considered, is there a blind spot in the data being from intentional non-responders?
Is there a, I'm not sure if I understand that question. Is there?
Here, I can, Tim, I'll allow you to unmute and you can ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just the people that choose not to participate. So like if there's a segment of, let's say, 30 or 40 people, percent of people that don't want to even participate in the, you know, like because they're opposed to it and they rather just choose not to at all, you know, it's like, so that, does that make sense now?
So you're talking about in the project that I described, not in the data we already have, right?
Yeah, or in general, like,
or in general,
getting
yeah.
You know, getting people, it comes down to having people take the survey, and then
right,
if there's just always that blind spot of people that say, well, you can do all your survey, but I'm just gonna go about my work, you know.
Well,
so
yeah, and I know that in the data that we already collect in our database, we give people the option not to answer for whatever reason. So that's a blind spot if people have checked that off. Not very many people do. So that's for the existing. And then for the project coming up, that's a good question to ask our specialist, how we will be able to determine, you know, I know they said that they can track who's opening the survey, so we can try to find out who's opening it and just plain not responding. And I know you're on our committee, Tim, so I'll keep a line with you on that too.
okay, thanks.
Thank you, Tim. We have a couple more minutes. Does anybody else have other questions?
Yeah, I just have only one thing. We have our conference, Compost 2024, Daytona, Florida. Yeah, so it's the program is coming along really good and a lot of good speakers, and we have a DEIA session as well. That's coming along good. Try to make it if possible. If there is any support needed, as Linda mentioned, we are working on our scholarship for the conference. Yeah, that's it from me.
Gallery, you've talked to the sheriff, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. That's an interesting.
You want to talk about that at all?
Yes. So there are, well, when we started about talking about Florida, I mean, it's a couple years back when we always choose our conference convention center or the location based like 3 years ahead we do it. And we had some issues when we started talking about Florida this year, I mean, for the conference, and Volusia County Sheriff. I met at the convention center staff and everybody there, and they gave me contact of Volusia County Sheriff, and he is amazing, and he gave us a statement, which you can see in our conference website. So when it comes to DEIA, for him, safety and security is the top priority for the travelers and all the LGBTQ and all the communities that is involved in there. So there are like different other local groups that are working on DEIA and all the other groups. So Florida is, Daytona Beach is really awesome place. So yeah. And you all should visit our conference website to read the testimonial from him.
Thank you, Gowrie. So unfortunately, it is we're out of time. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We're hoping to have another town hall next year, so look out for that. But in the meantime, our compost communicators are just newsletters. In the email, you'll see updates from our committee. So thank you.
Thank you, Zinzi, for hosting this. You did a fantastic job. I really appreciate it.
Thank
No
you.
problem,
Thank you.
Samantha.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.